The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
The Toronto Blue Jays finally did something this offseason. This past Tuesday, they traded with the Cleveland Guardians for second baseman Andrés Giménez along with relief pitcher Nick Sandlin, and they sent the other way expendable bat Spencer Horwitz and minor league outfielder Nick Mitchell. So that's the trade they conducted on Tuesday night. And I say they finally did something because for this whole offseason, we've been waiting for them to make moves because this roster needs improvement. And the last time we talked, they did do something, not the biggest deal, but they decided to non-tender Jordan Romano, who ended up signing with the Philadelphia Phillies for the same $7-ish million contract that the Toronto Blue Jays didn't want to give him. And in his press conference, I just want to note this, he did take a sideswipe at the Toronto Blue Jays front office, and he said he was surprised that he was non-tendered. He thought he would have had more time to rehab his arm with the Blue Jays in their system. There's no plan for him to come back at the end of last season, even though maybe they thought he would. But anyways, we wish him the best in Philly. Hopefully he has a nice career there and a good season this upcoming year. So that happened with Jordan Romano early in the offseason during that non-tender window. And then now we wait until Tuesday for something else. But that in-between time, we did hear the Blue Jays in the news because they were supposedly in on Juan Soto. And I say supposedly because they were in on him. They took meetings, they presented to him, and Juan Soto was very complimentary of the Blue Jays and John Schneider and their front office about the presentation and them trying to lure him to Toronto. But I say supposedly because, let's be honest here. I said this weeks ago. They're in on Juan Soto, but they're not really in on Juan Soto. They don't have being the Mets or the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Dodgers in their back pocket to offer Juan Soto. They can offer a whole bunch of money, and they never fully got up to the big 750 number that the Mets ended up signing Juan Soto to. They never got up to that number fully, and they're not the Mets or the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Red Sox, like I said. So they were in the Juan Soto negotiations, but there was never going to be a shot that they'd sign him. And so they don't sign Juan Soto as we all thought they wouldn't. And then we get to Tuesday and they make this deal for Andrés Giménez, which is a significant deal because Giménez is a 3-time Gold Glove winner. The last 3 seasons, he's won the Gold Glove, 22, 23, and 24. And Jays Journal had this really good stat. They said since becoming a full-time player for the Guardians in 22, he leads all second basemen with 59 defensive runs saved, 22 more than second place, and 49 outs above average. The best defensive second baseman in Major League Baseball. That's who they acquired. That's pretty good. That's a pretty big deal. And just to add to his resume, he finished 6th in MVP voting in the 22 season. He was also an all-star that season. So that's Giménez's resume. But since that 22 season, the reason that he has become expendable for the Cleveland Guardians is, one, they don't want to pay him. He makes a lot of money, and I'll save that for after we get into this part of it, because this has got to be the lead with Giménez. He can't hit. He hasn't been hitting well recently. I shouldn't say he can't hit. It's that he hasn't hit the last 2 seasons. Since that 6th place MVP season he had in 22, his OPS has dipped. It's gone from an 837 to a 712 to a 638. His on-base percentage has gone from a 371 to a 314 to a 298 last year. Yes, his on-base percentage is below 300 last season. And his batting average, just want strictly batting average, 297 to 251 to 252. So we have here a Blue Jays team that, I guess the other offseason news with them is they won the Gold Glove Team Award for the best defensive team in the American League. And that's not just a voted on award. It's actually calculated by a Saber stat, a defensive Saber metric stat. So it's strictly based on numbers. They are the best defensive team in the American League last season. They won the award for that. So this front office went out and acquired the best defensive second baseman just to make them even better at defense. And the thing they struggled with last season was hitting. So what the front office here is doing, Atkins and Shapiro and all the assistant GMs they got there and all their scouting department, they're banking on Giménez turning his bat around and them being able to do it this upcoming season. Because if he doesn't, the contract that he's signed to is just going to look worse and worse and worse as the years go on. You can deal with a second baseman who's great defensively, who's hitting towards the bottom of your lineup. You can deal with that at a certain price, and if you have good hitting around him. But Giménez is going to make $10 million next season, 15 the year after, 23 and 27, 23 and 28, and 23 in 29. And then you get to 2030 where they have a club option. Yes, this player that they just traded for is signed until 2029 and could make north of $23 million if he's still signed for the Jays through those seasons. Now, the contract could look a little different if the Blue Jays are into the competitive balance tax threshold. So there's a luxury tax in MLB. If the Blue Jays are into that, the contract could look a little different. But we will see how that goes because that's dependent on what sorts of contracts they sign for the rest of this offseason. So they're not into that territory yet, and there's a lot of other details we can go into and how the contract will break down, but the luxury tax version of this contract is different if they are in the luxury tax. Let's just go strictly the payroll now. That's what it could be for a player who can't hit. That would be, to me, that would be an absolute disaster if you're paying $23 million for a strictly defensive second baseman. Not worth the money, especially if he's year 30, if he's at age 30 and it's the 2029 season. Not great. But the Blue Jays clearly believe that he can get back to his 2022 hitting numbers. And the stolen base numbers, like his speed on the base paths, they haven't gone anywhere. I think 30 stolen bases last season. So that is also very useful. And what we know about this front office is that they value defense. So that is what they are paying for first and foremost. I don't necessarily agree that we should lead with defense this offseason when you were already the best defensive team last season. Why go out and get more defense when you need to be spending money on hitting? But let's hope that for the sake of our eyeballs watching this team next year, Giménez can hit because he has the potential in him to be a truly really good player in baseball and one of the best players in MLB. So that's the deal they make on Tuesday. Let's look forward to the rest of the offseason for the Blue Jays because there's a lot of areas they need to tinker with. And it'd be unacceptable for them to go with the lineup and the 40-man roster they currently have. There's a lot of issues that still need to be resolved. First and foremost, they need to address relief pitching. And it looks like they're going to reunite with Jimmy Garcia for $15 million over 2 years. And I don't believe the deal is official yet. As I'm recording this, they still need to do the physical, but that's great. Fantastic start. So there's your third kind of big news out of the offseason is the Garcia is coming back to the bullpen for the Jays. Good stuff. Like, I trust Jimmy Garcia to work in high leverage situations, especially now that you lose Romano. It would be good to have Garcia there in the pen. Awesome. Couple more arms would be fantastic. This team was some of the worst relief pitching in baseball last season. Let's get them to at least mediocre, to at least average, hopefully into the top 10 this upcoming season. So keep working on that, Jays. That would be excellent. And then secondly, the hitting part of the lineup that we just talked about with Giménez. Let's get some hitting from DH and the left side of the diamond. That's my pie in the sky wish list for the Jays because right now projected in left field is going to be Joey Luperfido, most likely. Third base is going to be Ernie Clement. Like, if the season started tomorrow, this is kind of how it looks. And then at DH, it'll be Will Wagner. Those are the improvements I want. Those are the areas where you can go out and buy a bat or trade for a bat and plug them in and push those players back to the bench as your utility guys and use them as when everybody else needs a day off or injuries happen. Like, that's what I need from the Jays this offseason. And then we get into the wish list of every Jays fan out there, and that is reuniting Teoscar Hernandez with the Toronto Blue Jays. That's what everybody is screaming for right now. The Blue Jays front office has said so much in the public that they would love to have Hernandez back, that obviously he's a great player and they'd love to have him in the organization. It would require a lot of money. He's going to get a giant payday this offseason. But if you're Rogers, the owners of the Toronto Blue Jays, and you're willing to spend about $700 million is what the reported offer for the Jays was for Juan Soto. If you're willing to spend $700 million on Juan Soto, why not allocate a small percentage of that to Teoscar Hernandez to make your team good? If you're serious about spending cash to make them good, Teoscar Hernandez is the perfect fit there for the Jays and bringing him back. So I'd love to see that. There's obviously many other options that the Blue Jays front office is looking at that I can't speculate and read into their minds. Whatever's on the trade market for them. Jock Peterson's name has been thrown out there as a possible piece for the DH spot, which would be excellent as well. There's somebody who's going to cost you not as much as Teoscar Hernandez, but not insignificant amount of money either. But the front office has said that when the right pieces come, that the ownership group is willing to spend the money. So hopefully between now and sometime before the start of spring training, we see the Jays upgrade the hitting there from the DH spot. I think we can upgrade over Ernie Clement. I think we can upgrade over Joey Luperfido in the outfield. You look at the rest of the lineup, Giménez obviously at second, Bo at short, Vladdy at first. Starting pitching gets a small note as well. One more arm would satisfy me. I don't think they need a huge overhaul of the rotation. It's Gausman, Barrios, Bassett, Yariel Rodriguez, and Alek Manoah. I don't think that we can rely on Manoah at this point to be your fifth starter. That's what we tried to do last season. It failed miserably. Yariel Rodriguez would be nice to bump to the bullpen, but if you have to go with him as a fifth starter, that's okay. I'd love to see one more arm in the starting rotation. Those are also 4 right-handed pitchers. They only have 1 lefty in the rotation. They need a left-handed arm in that starting rotation, and it needs to push one of Yariel Rodriguez or Alek Manoah out of there. And the most important thing for the Jays, I haven't even mentioned it, and it's the most important thing, and it should come first. I should have started with all of this. Signing Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Seeing what happened with Juan Soto this offseason. The Yankees, the New York Yankees couldn't even keep their free agent. If Vladdy gets to free agency, there's no way the Blue Jays re-sign him. Now is the time to just give him whatever he wants, because whatever he wants now is going to be triple next offseason when a team like the Yankees is in the market and is able to talk to him and just give him more than you could ever want to pay for Vladdy. They need to sign Vladdy right now for the security of the future of this team. That needs to be the priority number 1, 2, 3, 4, every number down the list. Get that Vladdy deal done. I don't care what it costs. I don't care what he's asking for right now. I don't care what the projections say on what he should be making or shouldn't be making. Whatever he wants to be making now is the number. If Vladdy's willing to sign a deal, they need to sign it, because it's going to be a lost cause if he gets to free agency next season. So that's it. That's it for me right now. Hopefully get some more Jays news very soon. Thank you for being here. Could have been anywhere in the world that shows you listening or watching right now, and I appreciate you for that. Good night from Toronto.
And that is how it's done.
The Jesse Blake Sports Report with Jesse Blake.
Jesse Blake, the guy that likes to hear his name twice in one sentence. Sure, I know him. No, he doesn't have an ego at all.